Hi guys, okay, today we're going to start the cooking series I've recently talked about. I've had such an overwhelming response, I'm going to go ahead and get this started a little ahead of schedule a little bit. What we're about to prepare is an old recipe that for about, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 20 years now, has been a sort of a camp favorite of mine whenever groups and friends and family go, something that I cook and other people cook. And the name of it, that we call it, is Kielbasa Surprise. Now what you're going to need for this is you're going to need, okay, the ingredients and gear you're going to need for this is, you're going to need a skillet that you can cook in. You're going to need some kielbasa sausage, Polish sausage, and a couple of pieces of bacon. You're going to need about a half of a yellow onion, I like Vidalia. You're going to need an apple. You're going to need a small head of cabbage. You're going to need something to use as a cutting board, and your aluminum foil to be the catch/cutting board we've already talked about in the past. And you're going to need your knife to cut it all up with. Now it's really simple, and this is one of those meals that you can put together in relatively short time and seems pretty easy. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set our skillet up so it's ready to go. Locked in place and everything, so when I go to put stuff in it, I'm good. Now for my cooking source, I'm going to use the small Trangia stove I've got with this windscreen because that Pathfinder skillet fits in this pretty easy. And therefore I can set it up there, set my skillet on it just like that, and capture the heat and cook with it. You're also going to need something small to stir stuff around with. That'll become evident in a minute. So go ahead and chop up your ingredients and then we'll start cooking. So let me set the camera down and we'll start cutting it up. Okay, I don't have a whole lot of time because the sun's dropping like a rock. Where this dish got its name, we call it Kielbasa Surprise, was back whenever I was doing living history and rendezvousing. All of us took turns cooking a lot of times in those camps. It gave each of us a chance to show off our abilities. And so this one particular time, it was on Saturday, and we're all going to leave out on early Sunday morning. The object of the game here is to, as quickly as possible, get camp broke down, etc. And we'd been out here for about a week, so we were way down on gear and material by that point, and supplies. So, Saturday night, it had fallen to a friend of ours named Al Seward, who we call Squire. And Squire was a unique individual, we'll put it that way. And so, he had said, look, what do you want me to cook for Saturday night? I'm kind of low. Well, we were all low on supplies. And so what we managed to scrounge up was about a half a pound of bacon, and a little bit, but not much, of kielbasa sausage, and then some of this cabbage and a few other things. Well, we all went to breaking camp because we'll break down everything except what we're going to need to sleep tonight. That way in the morning we'll just break camp and we're ready to go. Well, we start doing that, setting things up, and Squire went to cooking. And he went to cooking that stuff, and it smelled good. He's a really good cook. And he grilled the kielbasa. Well, as he's grilling that kielbasa, he went to nibbling because he was hungry. And as he's nibbling that kielbasa, the pile kept getting steadily smaller and smaller. And by the time, before you know it, before he got the rest of the meal done, the kielbasa was gone. The only thing was left was a couple pieces of bacon. And so with exactly 3 crumbled up pieces of bacon left is what he put into the pan with the cooked cabbage and onions and all. Now, when we got done breaking camp and we come walking back up, he's standing there, all ready, and he starts handing us our plates. And each one of us went to eating, and it was good. And each one of us began to wonder, where's the piece of kielbasa and where's the bacon? It must be buried down deep. And we kept eating, and finally we're almost at the bottom of the plate, and there was no kielbasa, there was no bacon, there was no nothing. And so I asked, I said, where's the kielbasa and where's the bacon? He said, that's the surprise, it's all gone. So after that, we started calling it kielbasa surprise. I, however, will make it with it in it. Now if you notice how big a pile right here I'm generating, that looks like, oh my God, that is so much. It ain't. Cabbage cooks down. And this dish lends itself to you being able to make it any way you want. If you want it hot and spicy, you can do that. If you want to roll it up in a tortilla and make it kind of like a taco, you can do that. If you want to take and add other things to it, hot potato, peppers, and whatever, you can absolutely do that. It's just simply a blank check for you to write whatever flavors and desires you want. And as you can see, when you got a good knife, it goes right through it. Nothing to it. It mows that lawn in a hurry and makes coleslaw. Now I've cut up all the small pieces. Now I'm going to fill my pot up. And I'll move on to the next thing to cut. Okay, now let's do the onion. Peel the onion right quick. Get all your skins off of it. Slice off that root. You can plant that root if you want to grow another onion. When I was a little kid, that's one of the things my grandmother would do. She would slice off one like that. She'd tell me to run it to the garden and plant it. And I'd grab it, run it out the back door, go to the garden, and quickly plant it in the hope that it would sprout up another onion. Sometimes you got to grow in season long enough to actually do that. Sometimes you didn't. But it gave the kids something to do and to feel like they were contributing a little bit. Alright, there's my onion all done up. And finally, I don't peel the apple, I just slice it. Pour it out like that. And take the large hunks, line them up right quick, and give them a little divider. Now you want to cut your apples up a little finer than you did the onion. So I like to make them little 1/4 inch slices or less. Makes it get more in with the rest of the meal and adds a little sweetness to it once it cooks. I know, you're sitting there wondering, is Blackie going to cut his finger with that WC knife? If I do, I better have some Band-Aids. Because this sucker is a razor. One of the best blades I've ever had in my life. Okay, now that all that's done, now we start the fire. So what I'm going to do is just fold this up and out of the way. Move this into position. Get my fire steel here. Fire it up. Now lock in my windscreen base. Just like that. Now we set the skillet on top. And the bacon goes in first. Now we're going to giblet up the bacon as well, so that it cooks evenly. And we want to get a pretty good bit of grease onto the pot. Now you notice I cook my vegetables first. Now's when I'm going to come and cook chop up the bacon, because I want to make sure that the bacon doesn't contaminate the other stuff. I'm going to take my cutting board, I'll take my apples, I'm going to put my apples in with my actually I better put them in with my onion. There we go, in with my onion. Just like that. Now, lay it down, and let's cut her up. Small pieces. I want fatty bacon for this. I'm looking for grease and renderings more than anything else. Don't go for the expensive bacon. Look for that cheap stuff, because it does just as good for this. Like the old man said, if you don't think you got a friend in the world, start cooking bacon. You'll have friends. Now, this is a fast dish to cook. Go ahead and do your preparation ahead of time. It's really quick, especially if you just pull it out and dump the components in right quick and start frying. You can have it done in 10 minutes. It's sort of a witchcraft stir fry. And I promised Mrs. Blackie that I would cook this tonight. And so that's what we're doing. Okay, now, my kielbasa. I'm going to cut it into 3 equal pieces, roughly. I'm going to split it and butterfly it out. Just like that. So that whenever I put it in, it will cook evenly top to bottom and won't be burned on one side and half raw on the other. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cook this, and then we're going to put in the cabbage. We're going to pull the meat out and put the cabbage in, and onions and all, and cook it. Now, the bacon is doing really good. It's rendering down well. Smells good. Doesn't everybody love the sound of cooking bacon? Make sure it doesn't stick. When you're cooking meats and stuff like this steam coming off of it is an indicator. There's a lot of water in bacon and other meat things, When you see that steam drop down, then you know you're getting close to being really done, because see how I do that? I flip it up and they roll back together now. Now the insides are cooked. Now I just roll them around a little on the outside and make sure they're fully cooked on the outside, and thus perfectly cooked sausage. I'll let this cook about another 2 minutes, and I'm going to transfer it over here to my tin foil, and then the cabbage and onions go in. Onions and apple first, cabbage on top. Okay, I've now rendered enough. So I'm going to take out my meats before they start to stick. This little spatula is good for moving it around, but it's not really good for this. It's too flexible. See how it's caving down when I go to scrape? So you just got to scrape it over the side. And I want to keep as much of that bacon grease in there as I can. Alright, now into that, we're going to add the apples and the onions. And then, once it gets going good, now we're going to add cabbage over the top. And we're going to mound it up. Now you're going to say, that's too much cabbage. Trust me, it's going to pack down. And what's going to happen is there's so much water in the cabbage starts to steam. And we're as much steaming it as we are cooking it. Now I want to cover. Give it a little press, let it sit there. Okay, I'm probably going to have to end this a little short. We got big heavy clouds that are now covering the sun, and I should have about another 45 minutes to an hour of filming time, but I live in the deep woods of Alabama, so it's getting dark in a hurry right now because the sun is being completely blocked out by these big black clouds. So we're going to end it a little early. But as you see, that's the whole step. You cut up your vegetables first. Then you cut up your meats. Now you know that your cooking surface is contaminated and your blade is contaminated. You need to clean those. You begin by cooking the meats first. So they're the last ones cut, first ones cooked. Because you're going to cook them thoroughly, and you're going to set them to the side. They're going to reheat in the final dish. Then you put in the onions and the apple, stir it up, let it get a good brown glaze on it in the bacon grease. The whole time that cabbage is sitting on top of it, steaming, and it's releasing steam, see? Next, you stir it, and you bring the apples and stuff to the top. Once the apples get to be the right consistency, you take them out and you leave the cabbage in. The cabbage will turn soft and loosen, looks like it's boiled cabbage. When it's that way, it's shrunk a lot in volume. It just takes a while. Don't worry, this is a good dish to learn when you're not that versed in cooking, because it's hard to burn the cabbage because there's so much water in it. If you just keep a mind's eye on it and stir it occasionally, you'll get good results out of it. So it's one of my teaching ones that I try to teach people first on. But now, there we go. Now that golden color starts coming to the top, and this cabbage seems to be just shrinking right in front of your eyes. Now I just stick it in the middle, stick it in the edge, and lift up toward the middle and roll it. And roll all that good onion and apple that's now almost fully cooked up to the top, and let the cabbage go down. See? Just go from the outside of the pan to the middle, lift up, twist. Lift up, twist. Now for the next, 20-25 minutes or less, depending at the amount of heat I got going right now. And it can be cooked really fast in a wok, a very high heat, or it can be cooked slow. Either way is good, and either way has a lot of potential. At this point, I would be putting into it hot peppers and stuff like that if I was going to spice it up. Cayenne or curry or whatever it is. You just keep adding flavor to it. Now see, it's got down far enough I can actually close the lid. Now that steam is going to go doing its work. But unfortunately, I'm going to be out of sunlight before I get done. So, I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Please leave a like, share, and subscribe for me before you go. And there'll be a lot more cooking videos coming up. Thank you for supporting my channel. And until next time, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.